Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to Buy the House, Build the Home. We are back another day, another podcast. So excited about today. Shelby, I'm going to let you introduce our guest.
We have Ron Bates here today, and we brought him on to talk about new builds because we know now that we're in 2025, a lot of people are starting their home search and deciding between pre-owned or new builds. And I think new builds are a great option for many. So Ron, would you take a moment to introduce yourself? What's your background in the industry? Tell us who you are.
Sure. Ron Bates, and I am in the new home building industry. I've actually been in it for over 20 years, and with David Weekley, I'm currently there now, and I'm in my 12th year with Weekley right now.
Awesome.
And really thoroughly enjoying what it is that I do, and just ready to talk to you guys about how we can help folks with the new home build process.
I love it. Do you want to throw the first question?
Yeah, so I'm obviously a real estate agent, and I deal with people all the time we do talk through different pros and cons of pre-existing and a new build. And there is a lot of pros to getting a brand new build. But one of the things I like to mention to my clients is just the timeline. And I know all builders are different. And so we can't speak to just one, but a lot of times I say they'll oftentimes tell you it's going to be ready at a certain time, and I try to prep them with expectation of this could take a little bit longer because it's a very different process. And a lot of builders are wanting to the inspection process is very lengthy.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of, you have to pull COs. There's all kinds of things that you have to do. And so I like to just prep my clients on the timeline of this might take a little bit longer than you initially thought. Not always the case. But have you encountered that? What do you speak to your client? When someone walks in, says they want to have a build ready, you say 3 months. How do you handle the expectations when there's like a wrench thrown and you can't,
Maybe a delay of some kind.
delay of
Sure.
shipment? How do you handle that? I'm just so curious.
Yeah, great question on that. And the thing is, it really depends on where you are in the process of the home, because there
That's a good
are
point.
things that you can, for instance, if you are building a home from scratch, then that's going to be something that you're going to run into more, to where if they come in and you're building an inventory home that you're building for nobody in particular, but at the same time that you've got that home in the process, then it's going to be a different timeline. Right. Maybe you're catching it halfway in between. But in this case, let's say, for instance, if it's just, a typical build, and I'm going to speak in terms of maybe all builders and encompass that, but you're probably looking at somewhere between, if you're doing it from scratch, maybe 5 to 7 months to be able to complete the home out. I think that
That's
kind
like
of
a safe
handles
timeline.
any kind of issues in that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
I would actually love, you mentioned it right now, what is the difference between like an inventory home or you coming in as an individual and building it from ground up? What's the difference?
Yeah. So what happens is that we need both in the industry, because you've got that person who comes from out of state and they say, I need something now. I need to move in.
Right.
And so the thing is that you want to have something on the ground, hopefully, that takes care of that need.
Yeah.
Whereas if there's someone who says, listen, I've always dreamt of building the home the way that I want it. I want to have all of X, Y, and Z in it. Then you want to be able to take care of that as well. So on the inventory home, what we call a quick move-in, but that would be a home that we're not building it for anybody in particular, so you want to make sure as a builder that you have everything in there that a buyer's going to walk up and want to have in the home. You're not going to have everything, but you want to be able to hit enough of those. With the building of the home and doing it from scratch, then that's going to be a different situation, to where you go through the process, you start out, and then as you go through the process of finding out, hey, is this the right community? Is this the right, big picture, where I want to be? Is this the right, is it the right lot or home site that I want to be on? what does it look like as far as the floor plan and everything? Those are going to be the difference. You're going to zero in, determine that, and then you're going to go to the design center and pick and choose different things and then go through that whole process there.
Yeah, it's a lot more custom. It's a custom built home for a specific individual versus a community where you have maybe different models, model A, model B, model C. You have, this one has a fourth bedroom, this one has an office, but you're sort of already picking out what people are going to want. And then you have inventory available for that buyer out of state.
Absolutely.
Who is like, hey, I need to move in 30 days. And you're like, okay, great. We got this one for you right here. So,
well, and one thing that I have noticed this past year is some builders that are building out neighborhoods, so don't think custom builder in this, but bigger builders, some are just going to inventory homes. They're not actually doing it from ground up anymore. A couple of them are like that. So you're not a part of the design process at all. So clients just know this as you're searching for your new builds. If you're wanting to be a part of that design process, which I personally think that'd be so much fun. I think for some people it's overwhelming though. So
Very
like what
Exactly.
is your personality type? What are you going after? And obviously some communities have both. Like I think David Weekley offers both, but I do know a few builders up and coming that are just going to do inventory. So just kind of be aware of that too while you're shopping new builds and communities.
I think as doing the custom, I'm sure you can speak to this. I'd love to hear I'm just imagining, because I know my clients and how it works. I feel like it would be a little bit more exhausting because they probably change their mind some. And then the husband wants one thing and the wife wants another thing. And so actually getting them to land on a kitchen cabinet color or a countertop type could probably be like pulling teeth sometimes, I'm sure.
Sometimes.
Do you have specific...
He's a therapist as well.
I love it. I love it. There is a lot of psychology behind, hey, we figured this out for you.
Yeah.
If you want to change it, you can go in and change it later, but we got your basics covered.
Yeah.
So do you encounter that a lot though in a from scratch home, someone, being a little finicky or not being able to make a decision or kind of dragging their feet some?
You do all the time. And it's just, part of it. And you got to think of it this way that, if I was doing that and I was going through that process, which I have, and I think maybe all of us here have, that, you're going to feel the same way about it. You're going to go, oh my gosh, so what do I want to do? How do I want to react to that? I think a lot of times what happens is that you end up getting to the position of building a home. Sometimes folks say, this is what I want to do, and I always have. Sometimes they're driven to that because there's nothing exactly what they want. And they said, you know what? I have this box that I thought that I could find a home in, and I can't. So now I need to go ahead and build it. So as you do that, you just have to make sure and communicate to them. And that's any builder that's out there is going to communicate the fact that, hey, look, as we go through this process, we have this pie, and the pie has the complete round portion to it. I wish we could get every bit of that pie to fit in there. We're not going to. Maybe, 80% of your expectations to 90% are going to be met. But once they realize that maybe some of that isn't as important as others, and you just have to walk them through. And you're right, it's just helping them to understand that.
Yeah.
I would
That's
love
so
to
true.
touch on some of the pros of a new build versus a pre-existing home. One of the things that I always bring up to my clients, I love that most of the time with a new build, you have warranties. You have a foundation warranty. You have some of the structural, roof has so many years, HVAC has so many years, foundation has, there's like 210, there's different warranties. But I would love to hear from you, as with so much experience in the industry, what do you think are some of the top pros to buying a new build?
So top pros are going to be the energy efficiency of the home, the fact that it is warranted and you don't have to worry about, I'm moving into a home and is my AC system going to go out in another year? Or did we miss something with the inspector on a pre-existing home? You're going to, and by the way, if you're looking at a pre-existing home, you're going to find that there's things that buyers want with that I want an established neighborhood. I want trees. I want the character.
That's what I hear all the
in
time.
that. Yeah. Which, you're still going to have that in a community that's going to be a newer community, but trees are going to need to grow, et cetera. But the things that are the positive in that are going to be some of the things we just talked about, the energy efficiency. It's going to be that a lot of these newer communities are going to be closer to amenities and things that are there, from hospitals to, stores and schools
Because
and
it's
you name it.
pre-planned. Like, these are master
Yeah.
plans. I think people don't necessarily always think about that either, is there's so much that goes into it before you even break ground on that first home. So keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, so that's part of it there. The other is that as you go through, and it really depends on who the builder is, but a good builder that's going to be out there is going to have that communication with you as you go along. So even though you feel like, wow, this is uncharted territory. And by the way, this goes for the agents as well, because a lot of times there's agents who have never sold new homes before. And so the thing is that we become that bridge that kind of helps them. And by the way, help you look really good with your clients as well. So we just want to make sure that, that the different things such as energy efficiency, where it's located, at the fact that it's new, and just a myriad of different things, the latest and greatest of things that are out there. So if you like that idea, it's for you.
I feel like there's been a myth out there that you don't really need a realtor if you are going to buy a new build, because you can just walk up. And I love that so many builders I have worked with want the client to have an agent represent them, because they're like, hey, this isn't our wheelhouse. Our wheelhouse is building, and you do need to feel comfortable. You need someone that's going to run comps, that's going to help you. And as I've been in the business long enough, I've realized that so many builders really do want realtors to be a part of the transaction. And I love that. I absolutely love that, because I feel like so many times people are like, well, do I need a realtor? Because I already found this new build. And it's like, well, you do still need someone fighting on your behalf. And also the builders want that as well, because they don't want the liability. And it's like, you were represented and you know what you're getting yourself into. So
I think that's actually a great segue into another question that I have. Green flags, red flags.
Okay.
And of course, we're talking in generalities here.
Sure.
We won't name any names. But if somebody's walking into a new build community, because there are a lot of different builders, and they aren't all of the same construction or the same quality. We know this. What are some green flags to look for? What are some red flags to look for? I think a green flag you just mentioned is a builder that will allow you to have representation for yourself. If a person doesn't want to, I guess they don't have to, but there are builders out there that do not want to work with realtors. To me, that is a red flag, because they know we're going to bring in a different viewpoint. So I would love for you to speak to that, though, being in the industry.
Sure, and just maybe kind of bouncing back and forth one to the other. But a green flag is obviously somebody who, when you walk in, it's just like a home. When I say, and you walk inside, I say, well, is this the right one? Or you're showing them two different ones. I mean, does it feel like home to you? You need to have a comfort level with that builder to feel like, as me as a sales consultant, or any of the others that are out there, can I mesh with them, and can I help them to cross this particular void here to be able to get where it is that they want? They need to feel comfortable with you, and you need to be able to. Yeah. So that's part of it on the green flag, have that. But like, as far as a company goes, I would tell anybody who's looking for a company to get out there and look at the Google reviews. There are some out there that don't speak too well of them, and others that, they speak very well of them. The other thing is, don't be so concerned all the time with, did this little niche thing happen or that. You want to look at the end of the day, what does are they having a lot of warranty issues? Are they following up in there? Are they handling their warranty issues, or are they just
Is there a way to
skirting
look
it?
for that? Would that be Google reviews and how people are talking about it? Or how does somebody follow up on the warranty and know if the builder's actually doing what they're
Yeah,
saying?
well, I think the reviews are going to be great, because people speak their mind.
Yeah.
And maybe, it's broad when they go in and they're saying, okay, well, here is, here's just like 1,000 different folks saying things, but you're going to see in there maybe a tone that says, wow, this builder, they were so great. they did so well with the warranty. The
Yeah.
communication was great. And you'll hear that more than not, to where if it wasn't, then, these are the issues that we have with warranty. And oh my gosh, I thought, everything was fine till we got in the home and the home was closed on. And then now they're not doing what they said that they would
Yeah.
do. So I think you can
good.
find that there
Okay.
too.
Yeah, I think communication for sure from the get-go is going to be a good indicator of how they're going to handle you even afterwards. Because the worst thing is to buy the house, get through the process, and then all of a sudden you do have an issue that you're trying to reach out to them and they ghost you. I've been on that end of that too with clients, so it's tough.
I would say, and you can speak to this if you want, but a green flag would be, or I guess you could flip it to a red flag, is do they allow third-party inspections or not as a builder? I know builders do their own inspections, and I'm not saying that they're not great, but I think it shows transparency, and that somebody else can also, a third party that doesn't have an opinion, race in the game, to complement what the builder has already done. And I just know there are some builders out there that will fight a third party inspection.
And I couldn't agree with you more on that. I think it really shows, and how well do you feel about your product that you're putting out there. And if you feel good enough to say, hey, listen, yes, we go through this process. And in fact, there are builders that have not only the city comes out and does the inspections and so forth, but then on top of that, they'll have their own inspection, team, or they'll have someone come out. Same time, if somebody wants to spend the funds and additionally have a third-party inspector, absolutely. And if you're the builder who has nothing to hide, then that's great. If you're not, then maybe that speaks of you there. So.
That is one of my favorite things with my clients about a new build is that you get it inspected. And you can't do this on a pre-existing home. I always tell them, pre-existing home, you're going to get the inspection report. It's going to be full of items.
Yeah.
And you can't go back to the seller and say, hey, I want
Every
you to
single
fix
one.
this, and this with a little piece of red tape or blue tape, right? But with a new build, you can. You forward them a copy of that inspection report from a third-party inspector, and you say, hey, there's a damaged shingle on the roof. And by the time you get to the walkthrough, the builder has taken care of that. If they're a good one, they've taken care of that. They're addressing your needs. And if there's a little piece of, the siding that wasn't secured correctly, like they're going to take care of that for you. And you really can't do that with a pre-existing home. The seller's going to laugh at you for those little nitpicky things. But with a new build, it's a brand new home. And oftentimes the builders, if they are a good one, they want to really have the pride and stand behind their product and be like, yes, we want you to feel great. There's a little scuff on the wall. We're going to take care of that, right? So that's something that is definitely a pro for a new build.
Agreed. Any red flags that you can think of?
As far as on the third-party inspection or just in general?
Just in general.
Okay.
Like if somebody's out there shopping and, they notice these things, you would say maybe keep looking or walk the other direction. Are there anything else like that?
Some of it is that every builder is going to have the way that they build their home, dig a little bit on it, find out what is their not only the energy efficiency, but what kind of insulation are they using? What's behind the walls?
Yeah.
That's always important to have that. You can find that information because the builders that are good and are proud of it are going to
Displaying
post that.
it.
They're going to have that information on their websites and be able to talk to you about it. And then the ones that don't are going to find ways to maybe get around and make that not as important.
Yeah.
But I think that is something to watch out for, as well as anything that if you don't feel comfortable about something, then you need to find it. And if you have the representation, like from you guys, then they need to ask you and lean on you. And then maybe the questions come to that particular builder from you. And then, it's pretty direct at that point, which is a good process to have too.
Yeah.
A lot of builders also have their own in-house lenders that the lender will be working with the builder. And I've seen some crazy incentives on the lending side. And a lot of times, you want your client to feel comfortable with who they're using and, compare the rates and compare everything with another lender. But a lot of times those new build lenders are really able to they offer rate buy downs and they do stuff that's really
Yeah.
tough to compete with. Like as far as other lenders, it's hard for them to compete. But it's cool to see the like camaraderie there. Like they're like, hey, come on here. We can not only help you with building the property, building the home, but we're going to help you on the lending side. And truly, it's 99% in my transactions of new builds, which has been a lot. 99% of the time, the builder's lender is going to be the better way to go, which is really cool. So that's another thing that I don't think people realize when they're kind of shopping is like they also have lenders that are specific to that builder that oftentimes can get you really, really good incentives.
Sure.
Well, and I think you actually just spoke to one of the questions I was going to pose because it's one of the most popular questions is, do I have to use the builder's lender or can I use my own? And you can use your own, correct?
Yeah.
With
Absolutely.
new builds. But
And the thing is, that, and you're looking for red flags again. If somebody tells you can't, well, that is absolutely wrong, and they can. And if someone tells you that they can't, you probably want to ease out the door over here too.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that you absolutely can, number one, but the thing is that there needs to be the reasons why.
Yeah.
Yes, and it depends. You spoke to it well. The market can dictate it as far as what's happening
The
with
incentives,
times of year, everything else. But the thing is that anyone who has a preferred lender as a new home builder, and most do, they're going to incentivize it because they want you to use that particular lender. And if you don't want to and you say, hey, listen, I've got this one, and I always tell my customers, I say, hey, look, you know what, do both.
Yeah, compare.
Go ahead and you're going to know what it is that you have from the preferred lender. You're going to know what it is that you have from yours. See what it is that happens when you put them both together. Do your due diligence on it.
Which
and
one
that way.
makes the most sense,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love that. Do you have, because we've touched on a lot, we've kind of ping-ponged, do you have any questions that come to you very frequently around new builds that we haven't touched? That you're like, man, I would really love to speak on this because it's so popular.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, it's directed to certain things, about the home. For instance, do you have one stories out here, or how many do you have of this particular one, or can you tell me, what the interest rate is, or what is what are the taxes in this particular area, what are the schools like, and it's going to depend on what community that you're in, and it also depends on what it is that particular customer, what they're looking for. So if I'm driven and I've got kids and I know there's a community over here and oh my gosh, they not only have schools that I like around here, but then there's private schools and charter schools and I'm kind of driven this way. Those will be questions just depending upon who they are and what they're really looking for. It varies. Is there one that comes in all the time? Not always, but within the range of whether it be school or what it is that I want around there are.
Okay.
Sounds like a lot of questions they ask realtors too.
I know.
There you go.
We're going after it. I feel like sometimes we need to know all things. To the best of our
We have
ability.
to know everything. Absolutely.
Okay, you touched on something, and I feel like I know the answer, but I'm gonna let you run with it. Say I come into a community. And I'm like, I want that lot. Do I get to pick any house floor plan that you have? Or are there certain house floor plans that have to go on that specific lot that I've picked or things like that? Like, are there a bit of barriers there? Because I know typically, I don't think builders try to put like the exact same floor plan next to each other, things like that. So what does that look like for people? Because I didn't know that before getting into the industry.
Yeah, and a lot depends on, is this a brand new phase and nobody else is there and you're the first one in there? Then you have the lay of the
Go
land
for
pretty
it.
much. It depends on where you're at with it. And then maybe to your question, one of the things that you do, and that's in discovering what the particular buyer wants. If you're looking for something then, and I know that these particular homes will go in this area, maybe I'll let them know, okay, now that we've kind of narrowed it down some, here's this. If you're in a new phase of a community or a new community, maybe what they're doing is they say, you know what? I like these particular lots. So my question back to them would be when they say, can I choose any lot? What's important to you in a lot and what do you want? And
Yeah.
maybe I can help direct you that way. So,
Yeah. That's
yeah.
great.
So the answer is
Yes and no.
yes. I'll say yes,
Yes.
more yes,
Yeah.
a definite maybe. No, I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
Yeah.
I love how earlier you were mentioning, I mean, this is just real estate in general, but the market condition and what happens with builders within the specifics of what's happening in the market. This last year, I had one, well, it was in October 23, okay? And they bought the house, brand new build. And at that point, the builder was, I mean, they had overbuilt, this particular builder had overbuilt. I mean, they were just, the market shifted, the rates went up, right? And so all of a sudden they're sitting on a lot of homes that were
Inventory.
already ready, that were ready for that person out of state, which was the case. These people were moving here from California, and the builder dropped the price down by $55,000. They offered like $20K in concessions. I mean, it was crazy. And then we turned around, and in about 9 months, my clients called me to sell the house because they got relocated again. And it was a very different story with selling. It was technically still, it wasn't a brand new home at that point. They had lived in it for about 9 months, but still had all the warranties, all of the things. And within that 9 months, the market was just extremely different. And at that point, builders weren't throwing out, $55,000 lower and all of that. So it's really interesting to see how the market, and it really
Does
also depends on
affect.
how much is your inventory, how many are you sitting on, it comes down to numbers, right? So it's like how can we maneuver this, where sometimes I'm sure, like versus a single seller, a builder, some of those you probably lose money on, and then others you make, and it's, you've got so many that at the end of the day you got to make, but you just kind of shift with the market. So I love that you mentioned that, because I think that's, sometimes people just go, oh, because you see those signs from the 425s, or from the 450s, and it's like, yeah, but it also really depends on what's going on in the market. So is there anything you want to speak to that?
Yeah, the market is going to dictate a lot. You also in a new community, or in a community in general, as a new home builder, they want to keep the pricing to where the pricing remains to where it's good for folks who are staying there. If you're just starting out in a community, you don't want to know that all of a sudden in 2 years from that point, oh my gosh, it's down here. Now again, the market dictates things on that. There's things that we don't have control over.
Right.
But the thing is that most builders are going to go ahead and say, well, look, it only benefits everyone if the pricing of the home, is going to be somewhat maintaining in there with the product that you have.
That's good.
So, and again, nobody has control over anything, and you just have to kind of react to what it is that you do. But you got to be sensible in what it is you do. And no builders out there want to go ahead and see, their community just go, oh my gosh, and I'm just dropping, dropping
It's not gonna be
prices
great
or whatever.
but forward momentum for that builder. So.
Yeah.
You want to make sense, and you want to have it to where the buyer, when everybody wins, that's a good thing, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
I love that.
We
You both said, I love that. It's the same exact
That's what happens when you're around each other all the time. One thing I was thinking about when you were talking about this, my mind wandered for a second, but the process, say you are building from ground up, how often are the clients on site seeing it from dirt to finish? Is that set inspection times? Can they come whenever they want? Like, what does that look like to be a part of that build process on the actual seeing it go up side?
Yeah, and that is really going to depend on the builder, because the thing is that any good builder that's out there is going to not only have the communication with their customers, but they're also going to have it to where if the customer, now we have to keep things in mind. If nails are flying at 100 miles an hour, it's a beginning stage and you're framing a home, you need to stay away it for a
Yeah.
certain period of
It's
time.
dangerous.
And then
Also,
it's
you don't
gonna
want the
be,
nail in your tire
Uh-huh.
from driving.
and then
I've
it's
had
going to be
that.
hard hats,
Yeah.
that are needed, and safety precautions and OSHA and everything else.
Yeah.
But when you get to the point to where, they're able to start walking in the home and everything, I think a good builder is going to be on a team with that particular buyer, and they're going to understand it's the biggest purchase of their
Yeah.
life, and that they should have access to that home. Again, you talk about green flags, red flags, and if you've got someone who's not allowing you to do
Yeah.
that, then maybe you need to rethink who it is that you're working with too.
Yeah.
So.
I love that. Awesome. Do you have any more questions? I don't have any on the top of my head, like burning.
No, I mean, I would love to hear from you. We kind of already touched on some of the most common questions people ask. But do you have any others aside from like when you come in here? Do you have any one stories, the schools? Is there anything else like when people first walk up that they're asking?
Well, if they're not familiar with new homes, then it's going to be the comparison, the
Yeah.
comparison between pre-existing home and what it is that they see with that, and then new. And quite frankly, they don't really know. You don't know what you don't know
Right.
when it
Yeah.
comes to that. So, you kind of have to educate. They may be asking questions like, tell me a little bit about the energy efficiency and what does that mean?
Yeah.
And then, you kind of walk through that process. And also, what is it? Do I have gutters on my home? It's interesting,
Yeah.
but there are builders who don't. Any builders who are, the better builders that are out there are going to have that. They're
Yeah.
going to have the yards. They're going to have the
Yeah.
fences. They're going to have the sprinkler systems throughout on the home. So those are things. Does it have a sprinkler system?
Yeah.
And when you answer the questions and it's positive, oh my goodness, they didn't have it
Yeah.
over here, or
Right.
I never had it.
Yeah.
So it's things that you would think maybe would be pretty common, but but then
Yeah.
they're going, no, I just didn't see that. Or depending upon where they're coming from, if they're in a different area of the United States
Yeah.
and there's ways that we do things here,
That's
they go, you
different
do that here?
Like you don't
and
have
it's-
basements in
Yeah.
Texas.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
like,
exactly.
we don't have basements. We're
Yeah.
like, we need some of them. Yeah.
You could here, but it would be quite damaging,
Costly
with
too,
a little bit of the ground pressure. And that.
I love the technology that's come with these new builds. Like you've
Yeah.
mentioned energy efficiency a couple times, but even just as we know, codes change over the years, right? Like so the electrical that is in your 1970s home versus a brand new build is going to be very, very different.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to see the way it's like I was doing a walkthrough and the builder was explaining the way that HVAC returns were and and it was all about that. And I was like, this is fascinating because we have evolved so much as a society, even in the last 25 years, that things that we have now and the technology that they can put in homes, even in the structures, the attics, the insulation, it's so fascinating to see. And it's like, it just continues and continues to evolve. So you have you've been in this for a long time. Is there like a certain like time period, like let's say the 2003 or 2010, is there a certain time where it's like, man, this got introduced and it was like a game changer for new builds?
Yeah, I think that whenever you had just insulation in general, and that's another red flag or not on that, and
Yeah.
watching, I think we talked about that. But I think insulation in general and what you just mentioned as far as returns or what they call jump ducts in the industry, meaning if you go into any home that's going to be a home that was maybe built, I guess below 2020, below in the 2000s to 210 or whatever, right around in there. A lot of homes, you walk in, and as a realtor, tell me you haven't seen when the air conditioner comes on and the ghost door just shuts by itself.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that really stops that from happening is a return in each one of the rooms that have closed doors in it, or it's having something to where the air passively moves out into another room for what they call a jump duct. If you don't have that and you're just forcing air into a room, as which we've done,
Yeah.
back in the 80s, 90s, and
Yeah.
so forth, and whenever that change happened, it was huge because also you wouldn't end up with a front office area that was just stifling hot, and you never could
Right.
manage it, and they'd try to tweak it and everything, and they
Uh-huh.
couldn't. But then once you created that airflow that went through the whole home, it helped out a whole lot. So I would put my finger on that, for one of the
Yeah,
things. Yeah.
that's
that.
awesome. I noticed too the windows, the way they make the windows now. It's like the sun doesn't even hit it. I mean, the sun hits it, but it's crazy. It's like
Some are like double pane. They have like a
double
little
pane,
bit
but
of
it got even more. I'm like,
space.
this is wild. You guys are just keeping up with the times. And
Exactly.
that's why inspections are so tough, because it's like now the code is this, and 30 years ago, and even though it's been fine, like now this is the standard
improvements.
GFCI protection in
Yeah.
every single minutes, and they've learned, right? They've learned from probably people, like the safety issues that have arose. So new builds are usually really, really on it with the safety and the all of that returns and the energy and all of that. So
Okay, we didn't prepare you for this moment.
we didn't prepare you.
Don't worry, don't be afraid. We do like to ask all of our guests, because before we end today, I want to give you a moment to talk about David Weekley specifically.
Sure.
I'm a fan of David Weekley, and then obviously you've been there for 12 years, so I want to get to that, and you can highlight some of their things. But before we go there, have you seen any horror stories in the midst of new builds, whether you were around it, you experienced it, client, not client, whatever? Like I said, we didn't prepare you. So if you need to take a moment to think about it, but we do ask all our guests this.
Yes.
We've had an inspector tell us some crazy things, a
Yep.
photographer,
Yep.
he went to take pictures and it was really bad.
Yeah. Does
So,
anything come to mind with
have you
like a
experienced
horror
anything?
story?
in this
Well, it would be an
industry?
experience that I had on my own. And
Oh,
when I,
good.
when I,
Let's
go.
when I had a home build, and it wasn't a David Weekley home.
Yeah.
But when I had a home build, and what they did is we had changed it from a bathtub to a shower in
Okay.
the secondary bath. And when they created that and they moved it, they did not take around it and seal it back in properly. And I'm on a lower level and my neighbor's up on an upper level. So what happened is that the neighbor was building a pool. When you have a swimming pool, it's cradled in the gunite and everything's fine. But what happened is, before they could do that, there was a huge rain. And so you had the pressure of all of the rain that was in this hole heaving down on it, coming up. So it came up underneath my home, and where that area wasn't sealed there, it just flooded out the whole area.
Had you already moved in? Like it was already through the
Oh,
process?
I'd already
you were-
moved in. The thing is that, thank goodness that this particular builder realized that, they may have been looking at a lawsuit or something. They had all hands on deck.
Yeah, they're
and
like,
they
"We gotta
had-
fix this."
Yeah, because it wasn't even a year, that I was in at that time. And, at first, they went over, those guys said, pump that water out of there,
Yeah.
because it was really, they shouldn't have had the water just sitting in there for
Wow.
that period of time. But things happen, and in the industry in general, things will happen as you're going through the process.
Yeah.
And I like to say, the home is a baby, and the baby's always going to be ugly till it's born and clean all up in that, and then it'll be beautiful.
That's true.
But the thing is also is that when you're going through the process and certain things happen, when you have that communication with your buyer and your homeowner, then you say that good news fast, bad news faster. You want to make sure that you get the information out to them, because when things happen, hey, look, this happened. This is how we're going to go ahead and take care of it and everything. Not to worry about it. It's all good. But we just wanted to let you know.
Yeah.
Because you think about a home as the last thing that's built out in the elements like that have how many thousands and thousands of parts and tens to hundreds people that are working on that home. So you're in the elements and anything can happen. So just to know that not more doesn't happen is pretty astounding. But just have that communication and be able to share that and be upfront on anything that happens. I think you're going to be in good shape.
I'm sorry that happened to you. That
I
sounds
know.
like a disaster.
I'm glad they dealt with it though.
But it was
they
to
took care
me,
of it.
not
Yeah.
from me to
Yeah.
somebody else. And so,
That's true.
okay.
Need to
That's true.
highlight
Yeah.
that. Awesome. Well, why don't you take a moment, tell us about David Weekley, why you feel it is a great builder, what community you're with, things like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've worked for another builder before for a while. And the thing is that David Weekley is just such a completely different company because it's family, it's teamwork. No matter if you have, here's some of the biggest differences in that. You've got a builder, a sales consultant as myself. When I say builder, I'm speaking of like a superintendent / builder.
Yeah.
That's what we call like a personal builder who's building that person's home.
He's overseeing it, or she.
For working with the trades, making the decisions on, the construction of it and so forth. So I love the fact that we work together as a team to where, we're making weekly phone calls to our customers that are out there, keeping them plugged in, because it's the biggest thing that we hear out of anyone who is maybe having issues with other builders and that is the communication. We'd be okay if we just knew that. So we call them up on a weekly basis together. So we're kind of attached at the hip. So it's not a he said type thing or he said, she said. So, you're just, you're connected with that. You have the communication. Absolutely love that about the company. The other is that we have our own warranty department within David Weekley, but just beware if you've got somebody that has their own department that doesn't have it in, like, the superintendent who built your home is the one who's actually doing the warranty on it. We don't do that. We actually have a warranty department, warranty manager who takes care of it. Everybody loves ours. If we're on the Facebook page in the community, they're going to be saying all the wonderful things about ours, which, it's a good thing. Our design department that we have is just phenomenal. And so we really pride ourselves on the fact that we are in touch with our customers and clientele, and that if they have any questions or anything, they can certainly reach out to us. You would ask me where it is that I am currently at right now. I'm at Tavola Park, which is in the Fort Worth area, which is, if you know where the Hewlin Mall is, it's just down from that at Chisholm Trail. Wonderful location out there. Have a new phase coming in, but just to let you know, obviously, we'd love to have you bring as many of your clients and have them come out and take a look. It's a wonderful location. But one thing I'd like to say about Weekley is that David Weekley himself is just a huge philanthropist, that he loves giving back to the community. And we have a wonderful care program that we have that, if you've heard of Sleep in Heavenly Peace, or another local is going to be Mission Arlington and other locations and that. We love giving back to the community, and so we'll do that on a grander David Weekley scale, and then we'll also do that on individual. We go out and we do projects and things to where we'll work out in the community, and absolutely love that.
I love that.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
That's
that is
really cool.
amazing.
I loved, I'm pretty sure David Weekley stamps every home too, don't they? They put like a little plaque on the home.
We do.
And
We're
love
kind of
that
proud of
because,
our homes.
well, I was going to say, I feel like that does show pride in a good way of like, hey, we're giving you a product that we are putting our name on. Because when you put your name on it, it's your reputation. It's everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's very established. I tell people too, like
Yeah.
if you're picking a foundation company, you don't usually want to pick a mom and pop little, like the bigger ones that have been around for a long time, that stand by their work, that have withstood the test of time. They're an established company, and they're going to warranty you. They're going to take care of you. That's really important, because if there's specifically in foundation, like you get they have a transferable warranty, and then the mom and pop foundation company went bankrupt, and then there's no warranty anymore, right? So I do think being with a very well-established, there for years, loves their product, proud of their product, gives back to the community, family-oriented. I mean, all of that stuff is really, really important. And I think sometimes people come out and they're like, we know it, we can build houses. And it's like, okay, well, sometimes people
I don't want to be the first customer. Yeah. But, well, Ron, thank you so much for taking the time
Absolutely.
today to come and chat with us. I think that's going to be very informative and very helpful for the people that are listening, just to kind of understand the process and what to look for when they're going out there. So,
And I just want to say that as anyone is looking out there, that they need to keep you ladies in mind for realtors to be able to help them out. You guys do great work. You have a tough job. You know, you're trying to help with the new and the pre-existing side and everything. Anything that we can do to help, we would love to. But the thing is anybody who's looking to have an agent to be able to be there on your side is like it's a great situation. So, and thanks for having me here.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you. If anybody wants to reach out to you, sorry, was
No,
that
that's
was
exactly what I was about to say, the
Great.
same thing.
How do they get in touch with you? What's one of the best ways?
Yeah, so it's just going to be reaching out. They can go on the DW Homes website, and then dwhomes.com, or davidweekleyhomes.com is actually what it will be for that. And as they go, we've got like 50 communities across the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So they can kind of target in on one of those, see where it is that they'd like to be. And within that website, there is an area where they can either speak to somebody right there and chat with them, or they can go ahead and there's contact information that's in there.
Awesome.
That'd be the best way, instead of just giving information and then they've got it for a short
great.
period of time. Go in there. Our website is wonderful. They can look around, and then that way they can see what area that they'd like to be in, and it's an awesome place to look around.
Love it. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.